Hey everybody, Kim here with Little Biz Resources, and today let's look at where to find images you can use for print on demand, plus 3 ways to alter images to make them your own. So a few quick rules for images for print on demand, okay? Now this is part of our Start an Online Business for Free with No Money print on demand series, just as an FYI. So everything I talk about is going to be in perspective of that. So if you aren't part of this series, then if I say something, it may or may not apply to you. Now, if you plan on creating your own brand, like through Printful, like we recommend, and you want to sell on platforms like Etsy specifically, you need to make your designs unique. Okay, you need to make your designs unique. You can't just take something, even if you can purchase it that way, and put it on there unless it's a unique design. And we'll talk more about that as we get to different resources. Never, ever, ever use licensed designs. For example, Disney characters, Harry Potter, Marvel Universe. I don't know why I picked all Disney, DC Comics applies as well, along with many other licensing ones. So if it's from like a movie or something that's like a character in a movie or something like that, you need to be very careful because those are usually licensed designs. Now we're going to cover free and paid resources, and then we'll cover how to make these unique. All right, source number 1. This is my all-time favorite source. Okay, right now, I mean, it'll probably change, but right now I love this one. It's called Fabrica, and there is a link in the description to their free designs. Now, they have a specific print-on-demand section, so you can purchase a design with the print-on-demand license, or you can get a subscription. Those are the 2 ways they go. These are extremely inexpensive, extremely inexpensive. So let's take a look at some of these designs. All right, let me pull this over. All right, so here I am on the Fabrica site, and let's go into the POD, which is the print on demand. And these are different print on demand assets that are already there, and they have print on demand licensing. With Halloween coming up, let's take a look at these. Now, these are digital patterns already. And the reason it's called Digital Paper Pattern Bundle. And this one is they have a full print on demand license, which gives you the rights to use digital assets to sell on print on demand sites. Okay. This basically means you don't need to make any modifications to the designs because you can just use them as is. Again, do not use them as they are for Etsy. Okay. And look at $3.90. That is like nothing. I mean, that's so cheap. But if you're doing your own, if you're just like, hey, I'm going to sell it on my own site, I don't care, I want this design for such and such, then here you go. Here's a great option, right? Now, you need to, if you're unfamiliar with this, you'll probably learn more as we go. But some of the things that we've noticed is that if you're looking for repeating patterns, a lot of times they're not actually repeating on here. And we don't know why. Some of them are, some of them aren't. It's one of those you just kind of find out as you go. So here's another Halloween one. They have these all these different little icon things in here. And theoretically, you wouldn't want to just print this as, or, put this on a design as is. You would want to, pick some elements, maybe throw it on a toss, etc., which we'll design in separate videos. So this is just an option where you can come in here. They have fonts. They've got so they've actually got different fonts are pretty neat for those who are doing like words and everything, right? So you can come in here, you can see different fonts that they have. And again, some are better than others. Sometimes you're going to get into a problem. And let's just go back here. Let's just type in Halloween. If you spell it right, you got to say Halloween spelled right, but it doesn't seem to matter. Halloween. Let's just put the W in there for fun and spell it correctly. It doesn't look like it changed. Okay, so that one was the one we looked at right there. Now, some of these are going to be for only, like, I can't tell by looking in here, but some of them you can't get. So this one says want to access, you have to buy them unlimited, right? But this one that says need full POD license, so you can click there, you can purchase it. Sometimes they're only available through their monthly membership. So you don't have to purchase them if you get the membership, because as long as you have the membership, you can use the designs that you download and you get the print on demand license with it. So that's kind of neat about it. Now, one thing I would also caution is that a lot of these designers are selling on multiple platforms, and we'll talk more about that when we get into Etsy, but you might want to check here and then check other places if it's something that you're like, hey, I don't like the price, right? Because some of them on here are good prices, some of them on here are not. So like this one's already $8.50 without the full print on demand license. So if you click that, it's going to be $11.05. Still not a bad price, especially when you're getting all of these different ones. But see, like this one's a digital paper pack. I do not think if it's a digital paper pack, it's going to be a repeating design, which is fine because we can still use these for other things too, right? So the size, yeah, so it's not a repeating design. Yeah, not seamless. Digital papers are not seamless. So in this case, this designer is not creating seamless designs, which is fine because you can either, you know, tweak it to make it seamless if you wanted to use it as seamless, or you can use this in one of our 3 ways to alter. So you can see where Creative Fabric comes in a lot. We can use the images for making a toss. We can create like a whole variety of different things. So that is Creative Fabrica. And like I said, there is a link in the description to some free resources. Okay, so let's look at source number 2. And this is my second favorite source, and it's free. And it's called Pixabay. I talk about it a lot. Almost all of the designs are free for commercial use on Pixabay. There are plenty of different items you could use, and plenty on here, right? So you can just use the ones off Pixabay, never pay a dime anywhere else. Now these are free, but you should consider altering them to further insulate yourself and make them unique. And by insulate yourself, I mean just in case somebody put it up there and they shouldn't have. If you alter it, you're going to be less likely to be responsible for that. And in fact, if you alter it, typically it's your design. So, and don't take that, I'm not giving you legal advice or anything. I'm just saying that if you alter it, you insulate yourself a little bit. So let's take a look at some of those designs real quick. So we're going to go over to Pixabay. And I do recommend that you create an account and log in, so it makes it a lot easier to download. But let's put in Halloween again. And you can see already there's some pretty cool designs in here. So some of these images aren't ideal for print on demand, just simply because like this one would be difficult to do if you wanted to cut some elements out of it or something. And let's say that you did like something on here and you wanted to remove a background or whatever. You know, I would use something like Design Beast, pop it in there if you have Design Beast, and pull out the background. You can use images. I've done that. I did that in my review of Design Beast, right? Which I'll go ahead and include a link to that for those who are interested. But like this one is, it's already a PNG with the background removed. So you could take this, you could make a couple of them, throw them on a toss. You can maybe find a couple of others. So let's just say we are doing, these are sometimes called sugar skulls, but we'll call that, see what happens. So they have a couple of different designs in here. And, you know, you could come in and pick a couple of different ones and create a toss, or if you wanted to just use it as like an accent on with some wording or something. And, you know, you could do a lot of different things with this. This one did not pop up though. And then sometimes you can also do is this one is from Open Clip Art Vectors. So you can go into theirs and see what else they have that's available, right? If you like a specific design. Now I have found that, oh, that's a cute little kitty. I have found that it's not like, see, this design doesn't necessarily match up with everything else. Like I wouldn't expect this one to be with this one, right? And here's some fruits and vegetables. And there's a kid on books. So there is no guarantee on how you're going to find it, on how you're going to find different things, but it's just another way. So here's a second one right here. So you've got, if you wanted to do this one and this one, so that way you have a similar design if you find the same people, okay? And sorry about that, my phone in the background. It's my daughter trying to contact me. So anyway, you could do this one and this one, maybe find a couple of others and do like a little toss, right? So maybe I'll do that in a video to show how to do that as well, right? So this is Pixabay. You can come in, you can find lots of different things, and it's a really great resource. Okay, let's look at resource number 3. Okay, this is clicker.com. Now clicker.com is kind of interesting because it's just interesting. I like it. It's got some interesting things on it, but it's not specific on if you can use it for commercial use or not. In fact, they mention that people who load up the images agree to Creative Commons licensing, which doesn't guarantee commercial use, right? So it's kind of one of those gray areas, but I want to make sure you're aware of it. The images are rather basic, and this is kind of where I say it's less of a gray area because they're so basic that other than saving you some time, I don't know that you wouldn't be able to find these somewhere else. But they'd be good for accents, repeating designs, etc. So and again, these are free, but you should consider altering them to further insulate yourself and make them unique. So let's look at some of the designs. right? So let's see, here's free clip art. You can click on animal and see, you can see right already that these are kind of basic. But let's say you wanted to do some sort of animal theme. You could do a bison. Maybe you wanted to do, I mean, they've got lots of different ones in here. The little penguin here, you know, you could, here's a globe. A globe would be nice. But see, I don't see how you could license this or half of this stuff. Most of this stuff you really couldn't license. And so that's why I'm not too worried about it, but you know, seek legal advice if you are concerned about it. They got a bunch of different penguins if you want to do like a penguin toss or something. So Clicker, like I said, really easy, really basic little items on here, right? So that is Clicker. Then Etsy. And Etsy is a little bit interesting because Etsy, you can purchase designs off of Etsy, but you need to check for the licensing requirements and use for print on demand. Like some of them will say not for use on print on demand. And if you buy through, so a lot of people on here also sell on Creative Fabrica. And if you buy through Creative Fabrica, you have better licensing options. And this is what I was talking about before, is that if you find that if you find the design on Etsy and you're like, hey, I like that design, check and see if that design is on on Creative Fabrica, because a lot of times it's cheaper. And instead of it saying like, oh, you have to buy a $50 license to be able to put this on 400 designs for print on demand, it might say instead, you know, the Creative Fabrica one is a one-time purchase and you get lifetime print on demand access. Or you can, if you're getting a monthly plan, it's part of your monthly plan. Right. So that's why I say you can check Etsy, because there's obviously a lot less options on there. But let's go ahead and take a look. So on Etsy, you kind of still have to, let's see, icon, clip art. Let's do clip art here. Halloween icons, clip art. And you can see that there are lots of different things. Like here's one that I swear I've seen somewhere. And yeah, so here's a vintage one. Let's take a look at it. But at $1.98, so it says 47 vintage, blah, 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 PNG. That's good. This is a digital product. We know that. These images can be used for personal or commercial purposes. POD friendly, right? Commercial use does not require an additional license purchase. Hooray. That's really cheap, right? If you can get on here, that's really cheap. So they can be used for physical or printed goods. When accepted, printed paper using the designs as is without changes requires an additional license. So again, change them if you can. And they may not even be able to require you to purchase a license to do that, but because these are all vintage images that are part of the public domain. I mean, all of them. I don't recognize any as not. So this is, yeah, so you can do this on Etsy, but like I said, just check for the licensing. A lot of times some of them will say you need to purchase additional license. So let's go to the next one. Now this is an app called WordSwag. So WordSwag is, it's a little bit different, but if you're looking to design content with letters or words, you need to check out WordSwag. Now, a word of caution, their licensing is unknown. Plus, they use other people's sources, right? So other resources, other people's font. So depending on what you want to do, you might want to use something else, but I'm letting you know this exists because this was really popular a few years ago. And I would assume they've worked out the kinks, but I don't know. I think they're just passing the buck. But for the most part, it's really difficult to say, hey, you can't use that. But let me show you how it works on my phone, and then you can make a decision. Here's WordSwag on, I have an Android, but they have it, I believe it started out on Apple first, and then they finally came to here. So there are a couple things that you can do is that you can take a picture, or you can select a picture, and you can search the Pixabay images that you can see up at the top. Now for our purposes, let's just do a transparent background. And what's nice about transparent background is that it's literally, you know, no background on it. So you can just overlay it over another image. Say, okay. So I'm going to kind of do that so I can see it a little bit better. And let's just change the text to be, this is amazing. Now, I'll tell you now, a lot of the fonts do not require you to have capitalized or not. In fact, most of them will just be all capitalized, right? So you can type it the way you want just in case, but for the most part, it's going to be the same. So save and close. So this is amazing. Now on the bottom, you can see here that there is a lot of different options. So you can just click through them. And in fact, I think it scrolls over more. And then within each one, so let's go to one that's different right here. Okay, that's really small. We can make it bigger. And then you have different ones down here, right? So they have different variations of this. And that doesn't look very different. Sometimes, for some reason, you have to hit the little roll the dice thing or something. So you can just go through these and find something. But as I said before, that one's huge. As I said before, some of these fonts may not be licensable. So they, you'd have to find the font owner and get the licensing, and it's not super easy to track down, which is why I'm surprised about it, about them not having specific licensing requirements or not. So this is just something that you should, you can take a look at. There are alternatives, which we'll talk about, but this is a resource that a lot of people have used in the past. A lot of people, they like it. It's super easy to use. You just download it as a, it'll download as a background with a PNG, and then you email it to yourself or whatever, depending on what kind of device you have. So that is WordSwag. So now let's take a look at the next one. Fiverr. Now Fiverr has options for design services. It's huge and massive, so I'm not going to go over it, but I do recommend if you purchase designs that are supposed to be unique, custom to you, etc. For example, let's say you find somebody on Fiverr and you're like, hey, I want them to design something for me. I want it to be unique. And you give them the outline for it. That's still yours for licensing purposes. And for the most part, as long as you've done that, you can still use it on Etsy. I say that loosely, again, check Etsy requirements, but for the most part, Etsy's not going to know that you didn't make it unless somebody complains. But they shouldn't complain if it really is unique and custom to you. So you need to run an image search on Google to make sure. And in the past, many sellers would resell stock images and tell you it was unique or custom. So when you run an image search on Google, which I can show you where to do that at least. If you're going to do an image search, you can just come into Google. And when you go into, this annoys me. Why do they put recipe ideas down there? It's making me hungry. So you can go into images right here, and then you can search by image, and then you can paste the URL or upload an image. And if you're like, hey, I don't have it, just screenshot the particular image, cut it so that it's there. I use this one right here is called Snipping Tool, which they supposedly are doing away with, but whatever. So I use the Snipping Tool on Windows, and then I'll just snip the picture that they're giving to me before I can download the image, before I accept it from them on Fiverr. And then I'll load up the image as the, snipped image, and then let it Google see if it matches anything. Because typically if they're using some sort of stock photos and not changing it at all for you, it's going to pull up those stock photos, or if it's really close, it'll pull them up. So Google, it's not 100% perfect, but it's a good step to just make sure, hey, they're giving me something before you accept it from them on Fiverr. Now, I have included a link that I've used. This guy I like, he does repeating designs. I've used his services and love them. He did a very good job. It took about 4 days. He gave me 3 different repeating patterns, and they're all beautiful. So I loved it, and I do highly recommend him, and that link is in the description. All right, so 3 ways to make designs unique. All right, we're going to do a color overlay, a pattern overlay, and then we're going to do an action. Okay, just to show you each of those. Now, I'm going to show you how to do them in Photoshop because that's what I'm more familiar with. But GIMP does have scripts, and they have other things to do that. You just may have to do a little bit of YouTube browsing because I'm not going to be able to go that far into GIMP. So let's hop into Photoshop and show you real quick how to do a color overlay, a pattern overlay, and then we'll use an action. Okay, so this works best with, solid colors. So I just went to Clicker, found an image. It's not perfect because Clicker's low quality, but we'll work with it. So this is a left footprint, and I think the image size is probably kind of big. Yeah, 4 inches. So maybe if I made it like 2 inches. And then I can zoom in. Yeah, still low quality. So let's just not worry about that. All right. So this is just to show you purposes. Obviously, you'd want a better quality image. But what you do is once you have it here on the layer, which you should only have 1 layer, you're going to come over to the FX. You're going to hit color overlay. Now, this is what stumped me for a little bit. You don't want it to be soft light. You need to just do normal if you want to do a full color overlay. You can play with these to get different effects. But if you can do normal, you can click there and you can pick whatever color you want. Maybe we make it like a bright green. We say OK. We say OK. Now there's a color overlay. Really simple to do, very easy to make it something different now. I mean, you could literally take, there's a left and a right footprint on Clicker. You could take a left and a right, make them different colors and put them all over as a repeat, and people would probably just love that. They did that once with handprints. There was a big old handprint thing. So now let's go ahead and actually undo that. And now we're going to do the same thing with a pattern. So I'm going to come here, go to FX, instead I'm going to select pattern overlay. And then I would select the pattern. So I'm going to leave it as normal, right? You still have other different things that you can do, but we're going to leave it as normal. And then we have a pattern overlay. I'm just going to leave the one that's selected, which I did for something else. I'm going to say, okay, so this pattern actually came from a series of designs from Creative Fabrica, right? So I took a background from Creative Fabrica and I basically just overlaid it over this. So that looks pretty good, right? Considering that that was just a silhouette image to begin with. So now you have something completely different and it's pretty much unique enough to you. So now let's take a look at an action. Okay, so now we're at the harder of the three options, and that is an action. And I chose to do a watercolor action, but really you can do whatever. I just wanted to show you that this is how you can speed up the process. Now there is a learning curve to the actions, right? So for me, we're going to find out how well this works because I'm not really sure if I'm doing it right or not. So I'm going to do what I think I'm supposed to do. Pull up my actions, and I've already loaded it up and everything, so we're just going to see if this works. When you just let it play, it goes through its different steps, and I want you to see the difference, but I'm going to go ahead and pause it until it's done. So now you can see the first level of it, and then the second level of it for this particular action, I should say, is when it adds in an additional element of like a painting effect of it. So you can see it's kind of a big difference between the two, and just kind of depending on the image that you use, it's going to be different. This image was straight off of Pixabay, and so it was really easy to, pick it and put it on here and, and be able to alter it because it was already done and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it until this one's done, and then we'll be right back. So here's the original image, and then here's what it looks like now. Words the wise, don't try recording at the same time as you're trying to do this stuff if your computer likes to play pranks on you like mine does. So you can see that this is pretty significant difference. I don't know that it would be enough to warrant and say, oh yeah, this is unique enough, but it's at least something that you can do. You could do these types of actions to help you create unique or more unique images and then combine them with some others to make them really unique. So that is it for this one. Let's go back and... All right, next steps. Click the link in the description to get started with Printful, or if you want to get started with Etsy and get 40 free listings, there's a link for that as well. Then ask questions. You can hop into Little Biz Resources Facebook group, ask on this video, or come live on Thursdays here on this channel. And if you like this type of content, please hit the like button and help me spread this content to more people. Thank you very much.